and welcome to special stage for Wales Rally GB. This not only marks the final round in the World Rally Championship, but for the second year, the national section provides a spectacle of its own. These guys will tackle 7 gravel stages over the Welsh Mountains, 4 of them to be tackled consecutively today. First on the road, it's Nigel Griffiths, last year's winner.
So for last year's winner, it wouldn't be the same fast-paced start to this year's event, starting the day in 7th place and coming out of the second stage this morning in 4th. Still a good start in the tricky conditions. It would, however, be a much better start for Michael O'Brien and Paul Spooner in their new X-Chem Block Focus World Rally car. They lead after stage 1, but drop back a place to 2nd on stage 2. Only 2 seconds off the lead at this early stage. So it's Roger Chilman and Andrew Sankey that lead the event early on, making that move from 2nd place to take the lead after the first pair of stages. A few problems being reported with the conditions of the stage after the WRC crews have passed them, but nothing to stop this crew having fun here today.
150, double caution, slippy one left. Drop. Opens. 2 left. Narrows.
Taking up 3rd place now, Roger Duckworth and Mark Broomfield. The Subaru pair complaining of an issue with the brakes on the car, causing them to lose a little time on each stage. But it remains to be found if that problem was with the brakes or the conditions on those slippery stages. It would be a good clean run for David Howells with last-minute stand-in co-driver Robin Herneman. The pair have no problems in the first of the day stages to take up 5th place. A good start too for Wayne Sisson and David McFadden in the Evo. The only problems coming from the driver, braking a little late into the corners and losing a bit of time. Obviously not causing a major issue though, as they end the 2nd stage of the day in 6th place. After crashing out of this event last year, Tom Norton and Horace Saville would be looking for a finish this weekend. And it was all going without complaints so far, lying 7th overall at this stage of the rally. A first-time visit to the Rally GB national event for Dylan Davies and Leon Williams in the Subaru, but no stranger to the Welsh forests. The pair get a wake-up call with a moment on the first corner of the first stage, but after that it's a slippy but easy ride to take 8th after stage 2. The conditions in these early stages were also playing havoc with the Evo of Jamie Anderson and Ella Flynn, the pair struggling to get the braking right in the slippery conditions and ending this half of day 1 in 9th place. Rounding off the top 10 at the end of stage 2 were Bob Keane and Andy Bull. No complaints to report, but not overly impressed by their own pace at this stage. Impressed still less with their pace, Donnie McDonald and Andrew Falconer settle into 11th place. Hopefully things will improve for the pair as the event goes on. Still early days on the national event of Rally GB. Paul Davey and Roger Allen have a clean run on stages 1 and 2 this morning to lie in 12th place in that Impreza. And for Luke Francis and John Roberts, it would be 13th place, a good steady start, but the pace would have to be improved to get into that top 10. A slow start for this year's Welsh National Rally champions Alex Allingham and Mark Glenister, as they end the morning stages in 14th place. The pair just trying to enjoy themselves though at this stage. And in 15th overall, marking the first of the rear-wheel drive cars, are Ian Rowlands and Emir Hall. Rear-wheel drive maybe not suited to these slippery conditions, but the pair were out this weekend to try and show up some of the 4-wheel drive crews. So as we move into the afternoon pair of stages, it would still be Roger Chilman and Andrew Sankey that hold the lead. But it wasn't without its drama. Looking to get away with this moment with little more than cosmetic damage to the car, but a problem with the windscreen washers means that visibility from the now muddy windscreen is less than ideal.
Right here, pin right. 60, 5 right over crest. Go 80, 4 left. Continues for 100. 60, 5 left. Tightens over crest. 5 left, now tightens over crest. 5 left. 4 left, yeah, now 4 left.
For last year's event winner Nigel Griffiths and John Scott, it would be a move up the order into second with some good times. The only problem to report that co-driver John had been sick a number of times. Their move up into second at the expense of Michael O'Brien and Paul Spooner as they crash out of the event at the end of day one. Not too much damage reported on the new car, and the crew both okay. No change for Roger Duckworth and Mark Broomfield as they remain in third place. Dramas of their own though on the final stage of the day saw them lose power steering for the last 3 miles of the stage. An improvement for Jamie Anderson and Ella Flynn as they climb up to 4th place. A good way to end day one, considering the pair picked up a puncture with around 4 miles left to drive on the final of the day's 4 stages. And still not a fan of the conditions in the stage, it would be a move up to 5th place for Dylan Davies and Leon Williams. The pair not happy with their performance, so surely there would be more to come from the Impreza duo in the morning. Some impressive times fire Donnie McDonald and Andrew Falconer up into the top 10 now, into 6th place. The final of the day's stages providing the crew with a smile as they end the day happy with their performance. No change for Tom Norton and Horace Saville as they remain in 7th place. But there would be a fine line between pushing and playing safe this weekend, not wanting a repeat of last year's failure to finish the event. Fulfilling their wish to beat the 4-wheel drive crews was getting closer for Guyan Rowlands and Emir Hall as they end the first day in 8th place. But like many others, it wouldn't be without incident, the pair looking to get away with a massive moment on the final stage of the day.
And 3 right, 80 past junction, flat 3 right, mid over crest, 80, 4 left long, don't cut, continues for 150.
Some good times for Luke Francis and John Roberts keep them happy and move them up to 9th. Fog on the last stage of the day causing a problem though as the pair hit a rock and bend the steering, luckily not losing too much time. And slight improvement for Paul Davey and Roger Allen. They move up into 10th place, but complaining that the tyres were going off towards the end of the last stage. It will be a move into 11th place for Alistair and Colin Inglis, the pair enjoying the stages when the fog wasn't hindering their progress. For Peter Egerton and Alan Cook, it will be a bit of a culture shock getting back into the Hyundai Accent World Rally Car after a year in the historic championship, but it was coming back to them now as they move up into 12th place. This was also a long overdue return to the WRC car for Theo Bengry and Les Forsbrook, as they move up into 13th place at the end of the first day of competition. No improvement for Alex Allingham and Mark Glenister as they remain in 14th place. The pair all set for a big push on the final stage of the day, only to be hampered with a misfire caused by a faulty fuel pump. Another crew not overly impressed with their own performance on day one, Phil Brown and Hamish Campbell take up 15th place, but insist they could have done better. Day one wasn't going to plan for a few of the crews this weekend, with a number of them suffering from mechanical or driver error and slipping down the results. For Sarah Williams and Patrick Walsh, it was a puncture on the final stage of the day that lost them some time. Only around 50 seconds lost, but with that, some damaged confidence going into the second day of the competition. It would also be a bad weekend for Sean Gardner and Ben Innes. After a win on the recent Cambrian rally, the pair were looking forward to a result here, but it wasn't to be, and off at the end of the first stage, putting them out of the event. Sadly, no sound on this onboard footage, but you can see the pair's event come to an end so early on. And also a disappointing end to the rally for Roger Platt and Sharon Roberts, as the Renault Alpine suffers problems and is forced to retire at the end of the second stage. It wasn't all doom and gloom though, as some of the crews were going well this weekend, including Nick Elliott and Dave Price, the pair in the lead of the historic class in 17th overall. Also in the lead of their own class were Ocean Price and Yeston Williams in the Fiesta, currently lying 21st overall on this, the local event for the crew. David Poyser and John Orme lead their class in the Honda Civic in 37th overall at the end of the first day. And it's a small but all-important lead in the class for James Watts and George Morrison in the Volkswagen Polo down in 48th place. Richard Baker and John Lee lead the second of the historic classes this weekend in their Escort, 50th overall after day one.
Welcome back to day two of Rally GB from the infamous Sweet Lamb stage, the middle of today's stages. Now, Rally GB may have taken on a new identity this morning with the sunshine, but there was a serious downpour yesterday evening and last night, which has left the stages in a seriously tricky condition. Roger Chilman has a lead of 35 seconds at the moment, but will he be able to maintain it? Stay with us.
So over the first of the day's stages, Roger Chilman and Andrew Sankey do indeed maintain that lead of the event and add another 2 seconds to the margin, going well for the crew so far. The event going well too for Roger Duckworth and Mark Broomfield as they move up into second place on their first visit to the National Rally here at Rally GB. So for Nigel Griffiths and John Scott, it's a drop down to third place. A 10-second time penalty applied on day one not helping the defence of last year's victory, but with only a 3-second gap to Duckworth, it was still all to play for in that battle for the lead. Still no change for Jamie Anderson and Ella Flynn as they hold on to fourth place. No problems to report today after their day one puncture. For Tom Norton and Horace Saville, it will be a good morning. Moving up the order to take fifth place, looking good so far for a decent finish this weekend. Not such a good start to day two for Dylan Davies and Leon Williams as they move down one place into sixth. A good climb up the results now for Wug Utting and Bob Stocko. Intercom problems on day one held them back a little, but they move up to seventh after the first of today's stages. It's an improvement too for Peter Egerton and Alan Cook in the Hyundai as they get a little more used to the car again and move up into 8th place. This morning's run through Hafren also sees a move up into the top 10 for historic championship regulars Nick Elliott and Dave Price in the Escort. 9th place now, that's improvement put down to a better tyre choice on day 2. Just 1 place gained for Alistair and Colin Inglis as they step up to round off the top 10 in the Evo. Having a better run on day 2, Keith Parry and Errol Evans enjoy the faster flowing stages and move up into 11th place. A couple of places gained for Phil Brown and Hamish Campbell as they move up from 15th into 12th place. And we also see John Morrison and Peter Carstairs move up the results and into 13th place after the first stage of the day. Paul Davey and Roger Allen lose time on this stage and move down to 14th spot. The problem being an accident involving fellow competitors Donny McDonald and Andrew Falconer. The pair had been running in 6th place when disaster struck on the first stage of day 2. Crashing out of the event, the SOS board was displayed due to one of the crew not being out of the car yet, and the next car on the scene was sent to the next radio point for help. Both crew were okay, but the incident held up a number of crews who would be asking for a review of the stage times later on. After all of that, it's a move up to 15th position for Ocean Price and Yeston Williams in the Fiesta, still in the lead of their class. Day 2 would see the end of the road for a couple of crews, with the Hyundai Accent World Rally car of Peter Egerton and Alan Cook being one of those, the steering breaking as they turned into a corner in the final stage, sending the pair off the road with too much damage to continue. Not quite the end of the road, but not far off for the Evo pairing of Martin Payton and Darren Parsons as they rip the wheel off the car in Sweet Lamb. And despite trying to continue on the road, the pair are forced to pull over and repair the car before getting on their way. They do, however, make it to the finish in 31st place. So with the end of the event in sight, there would be a few class victories celebrated. After stepping up from the Junior Championship, it would be a good weekend for Cameron Davies and Alistair Dodd in the Micra. They take their class win on Cameron's first time out on a multi-venue event, having only passed his driving test in recent weeks. It's also a class win for Len Jones and Don James in the Escort. They finish ahead of the class in 24th overall. Ocean Price and Yeston Williams continue to lead their class and take 15th place in the process at the end of a difficult event. John Morrison and Peter Carstairs drop a place on the final stages to take home 14th place. And it's a disappointing end for Dylan Davies and Leon Williams as they suffer a puncture on the final stage, stopping to change it and losing enough time to drop them out of 5th place and down into 13th. A little shuffling up and down the order finally sees Phil Brown and Hamish Campbell finish the event in 12th place, while Keith Parry and Errol Evans enjoy the second day's faster flowing stages, as well as the spectacle in Sweet Lamb in front of family and friends to take 11th overall. An historic class win for Nick Elliott and Dave Price as they round off the top 10 in their well-prepared historic championship car. Ninth overall for Wug Utting and Bob Stoko as they overcome their day 1 intercom problems to have a trouble-free second day of competition. Clawing back some time after their day 1 issues with the fuel pump would be Alex Allingham and Mark Glenister, the pair moving themselves up into 8th place. And it's a move back up to 7th for Paul Davey and Roger Allen. Their only real complaint on the later stages being a sore back for Roger after a heavy landing on the Sweet Lamb jumps. An impressive climb up the results over the weekend for Luke Francis and John Roberts as they have their fair share of problems but better conditions on day 2, helping them to finish 6th overall. These final stages see us lose Tom Norton and Horace Saville from 5th place, the pair stopping in the Sweet Lamb stage, unable to continue. A disappointing end to a good run up to now. So with the aim of beating the four-wheel drive cars the real challenge this weekend, it would be a good victory for Jayan Rowlands and Emir Hall as they finish 5th overall, ahead of many four-wheel drive cars on the entry list behind them. No dramas on day 2 for Alistair and Colin Inglis as they close in on the podium places in 4th position. And after a host of day 1 problems, it was a lot smoother on the second day of competition for Jamie Anderson and Ella Flynn. They round off the podium this weekend with a well-deserved and much celebrated 3rd place. Just missing out on the win here this weekend was last year's winner Nigel Griffiths, with John Scott alongside. A time penalty on day 1, almost certainly the difference between the win and that 2nd place.
Were you disappointed that you weren't able to defend the title in the end?
Yes, I was, but at the end of the day it was my own fault. I jump-started yesterday and we got a 10-second penalty, so without that we would have won it. But I was a bit anxious yesterday, didn't quite understand the light system, and I thought we were supposed to go at the end of the lights, not when the lights went out, so that was a problem really.
Yeah, lesson learnt really for next year then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It would have been nice to have done it twice, because then we could have had a go for the 3rd time next year.
And going into the last leg of the event, it would be all change at the top, with event leaders Roger Tillman and Andrew Sankey going out with problems on the final stage. A fantastic lead and a probable win dashed in the final few miles for this crew.
Fuel pressure, Rog.
Flags off.
Fuel pressure.
Oil pressure. What is it? What is it?
Twice you stop with your fuel.
And so it's a delighted Roger Duckworth and Mark Broomfield that take victory here this weekend at the 2011 Rally GB national event, with a very close margin of only 2.2 seconds.
Mr. Tillman's exit from the rally, of course, has left you in a fantastic position here, 1st place on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to win a rally for once, and the battle with Nigel was very, very close. We came out of the last stage and we didn't know who'd won it. We had to sort of look at the times quite closely because there's only 2 seconds in it. So, yeah, I'm very glad.
A nice title to have for the accolade as well, national winner at Rally GB.
Yes, yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. It's the first time I've done it. Nigel won it last year, so I suppose it's only fair.
So here's confirmation of the final results.
Well, that's it from Rally GB, and as expected, what a spectacle. It was fantastic. Congratulations to Roger Duckworth, who takes the national win this year. Well, that's it from Bith Wells. Laurie Davies will be joining us after the break from all the action for the last round of the Cross Country Championship.
Welcome to Special Stage. Here we are in Nestcliff for the last round of the Brit-Part British Cross Country Championship. And with 3 drivers still with a chance of winning the championship, it looks set to be an exciting weekend.
So as the crews get themselves ready to start the final round of the season, it's this man's championship to lose. Dan Lofthouse, in the first season with the new car, has extended a small lead in the points and just has to finish well here this weekend to take the 2011 title. But with the car's newfound reliability and the driver's increased speed, it will be down to Ian Rochelle to dash those championship hopes for Lofthouse. If he finishes high enough above the Freelander driver this weekend, then the championship is his. But ready to pick up any pieces from that battle, in 3rd place was previous champion Richard Kershaw. Problems with the 2 in front, causing them not to finish, could send the trophy back home with Kershaw once more. So the level of fight or finish was going to be crucial here this weekend for Lofthouse and Rochelle. So So let's get to the action from this 6th and final round of the 2011 Britpart MSA British Cross Country Championship. Over the first few runs, it wouldn't in fact be any of the 3 top contenders that would take the lead. It would be the RS200 of Gordon Monaghan and Steve Matthews. A good early pace sees the pair leading after these first 2 runs. For championship hopefuls Dan Lofthouse and Johnny Conger, it would be 2nd place, only needing a good finish over Ian Rochelle to take victory they wouldn't be getting in a fight with Monaghan so early into the event. A good solid start for Richard Kershaw and Andy Lees in the Milner as they end the first runs in 3rd place. But bad luck right from the start for Ian Rochelle and Chris Hammond as they have problems on the very first run. They lie in 4th place.
So we've seen you having a few problems today. What's been going on?
Yeah, we unfortunately early on in the first lap we sheared a stub axle. So we had no fiddle brake, no brake and only 2-wheel drive. Shockingly, we managed to get the car back in one piece without doing any more damage, and the guys have worked for the last 2.5 hours collecting parts from all around the country and they're just putting it back together. So we're going to go out now and see what we can do and see if we can get back in it.
A good start for Ryan and Chris Cook as they settle into 5th place early on in the event. Bob Seaman and Neil Wakefield have a few problems on the first run finding their way around the course and taking some interesting lines on some of the corners, but they managed to keep a good pace and currently lie in 6th place. And it's an early 7th place for Ian Bartlett and Gary Bartlett in the 3M206. 8th place at this stage would belong to Martin Cox and Paul Carson in the GSR. While it's a different GSR of Carl Gudgeon and Peter King that lies in 9th place. And rounding off the top 10 on his latest outing in the championship was Ben Gott, with Courtney Tipping alongside. In the trophy rally, it would be a good early start for Tom and Richard Hipkiss in the Tomcat as they take the lead of the trophy runners. Britpart's Paul Myers and Matt Morgan start the day with a 2nd place, and with problems at previous rounds, this would be welcomed early on. Not the best start for Greg Morris and Bob Moulding though, as they take up 3rd in the trophy rally, but they would surely fight back as the event unfolded. In the Freelanders, it would be Chris Ratter and Eddie Fernside that take the initial lead. Followed closely by this man, Harry Sherrard, with Ivor Heading alongside. Dave Reeve and Philip Gillespie round off the top 3 in the Freelanders after run 2. A good clubman entry this weekend sees another strong contender for overall times. Dan and Kim Evans lead the clubman crews and also post times to equal the top of the main field. Second in the clubman category were Paul and Claire Harris, in the car that's only just finished being rebuilt by Paul just before this event. And rounding off the top 3 in the clubman entry were Andrew Graham and Patrick Brown. Over the next few runs on day 1, it will be no change at the top as Gordon Monaghan and Steve Matthews keep hold of their lead and keep the chasing crews at bay. A jump up a place for Richard Kershaw and Andy Lees as they move into 2nd place now. And it's a place down the leaderboard for Dan Lofthouse and Johnny Conger as they have problems on run 5 and lose a small amount of time.
Dan, we can see you haven't got a windscreen. What's happened?
We just cut a corner. One of the taller cars, must have been from a few laps before, had clipped the branch and it pulled it down, and then unfortunately we was the one to land straight in the middle of our window. So window out, goggles on, carry on. We've got another window coming tonight, so if the rain comes we should be dry for tomorrow anyway.
Moving up into 4th place now are Ryan and Chris Cook. The pair taking advantage of problems being experienced by Ian Rochelle over this middle loop, as he drops right down to 14th overall.
So you've been out on some more runs, and it seems like more drama for you.
Oh yeah, the cruel world of motorsport. Obviously you know what happened on lap 1. Lap 2 we had a puncher. Still managed to put a relatively competitive time in, and then lap 3, about 100 yards before the end, we were on for a stormer, and unfortunately I think we severed a fuel cable or stretched it, and lost power to the fuel pumps. So we got stranded out there. We've got a maximum. We've come in, our genius mechanics managed to find it, fix it. We're back out, we're not going to give in.
A big jump up the results now for Martin Cox and Paul Carson, as they pick up the pace and move from 8th up to 5th position. And the same can be said for Carl Gudgeon and Peter King, as they move from 9th into 6th place after run 5. Steve Smith and John Griffiths join the top 10 now, as they move from way down in 13th place up into 7th. This despite having to drive the remaining part of this run with the bonnet up over the windscreen. A good start to the weekend for Mike Moran and Claire Wood, as they move into the top 10 now with 8th place. Phil Ibbotson and Will Jefferson climb a few places up into 9th place in the Metro. And rounding out the top 10 now are Richard Green and Richard Griffiths. With some changes in the trophy rally, it would be Greg Morris and Bob Moulding moving up into the top spot after run 5. This move inevitably puts Tom and Richard Hipkiss down into 2nd place of the trophy competitors. And problems for Paul Myers mean Vonnie Kempster moves up to take that 3rd place. Changes too at the top of the Freelanders, as Harry Sherrard and Ivor Heading move into the top spot. Chris Ratter and Eddie Fernside dropping a place down into 2nd. Dave Reeve with Philip Gillespie alongside continue to round out the top 3 in the Freelander category. There will be no change at this point at the top of the Clubman crews, as Dan and Kim Evans still lead with a healthy margin, and still with times putting them right up there in line with the overall leaders. Still 2nd place for Paul and Claire Harris at this stage. And rounding out the top 3 now are Andy Powell and Aid Griffiths. So with a dramatic day in the championship, it would be Dan Lofthouse and Johnny Coonja that end day 1 in the lead, despite their fair share of problems.
So it's the end of the first day and you're currently in the lead at the moment, but you've had some problems at the last few runs as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a nightmare of a day. Hopefully that's my 3 issues out of the way now, and it'll be good sailing tomorrow. We've just done another drive shaft on the last run, but I think it's down to breaking the output flange on the diff earlier, and it's just been another outcome of that. We dropped a minute and a half, stopped, got out of the car, just double checked what it was, jumped back in and carried on. You know, we're still in the lead. I didn't expect to still be in the lead now after the problems, but luckily for us, everybody else has been having problems as well, so we'll hopefully try and keep going and keep as we are, and we should be there tomorrow night, hopefully. Nerves are kicking in.
Dan's newfound advantage down to problems for Gordon Monaghan and Stephen Matthews, sidelined on the final run of the day with a broken prop shaft, dropping them down from the lead of the event into 11th place. Climbing up a few more places now and up into 2nd place are Ryan and Chris Cook, but it wasn't an easy day either for this pair.
So you're 2nd overall after the first day. How's it gone for you so far?
Absolutely blinding. We had a really, really good day. Very slippy first run, but I think everyone was in the same boat with that. We've not been without mechanical fatigue. We've had to remove a back diff because there was a noise, which we've rectified. We then replaced it with a back diff to complete today, and we blew the back diff on the last run. Fortunately, I think luck might be on our side because we blew the back diff probably 150, 200 metres towards the finish. So we got back. The lads have worked an absolute blinder. They've worked hard all day, and we've hopefully back in it for tomorrow. So the diffs have all been rebuilt. Dave and Lee have been working really hard, and my father's been doing the engineering side of it. So all being well, fingers crossed we can have a successful day tomorrow too.
The reason for some of that movement in the results was down to the retirement of this man Richard Kershaw from 2nd place. Problems with the car disappointingly sidelining him on run 6.
So it's the end of the road for you here today. We've just seen the car being towed in.
Yeah, we think we've had a clutch failure, something along those lines. But a bit disappointing because we were doing really well, but that's racing. So, yeah, one of them things, but yeah, it's alright, it's been enjoyable so far. And we'll go away and learn a bit more about the car and try and make it a bit stronger.
So we see a move up into 3rd place now for Martin Cox and Paul Carson, really getting to grips with the car now. And a move into 4th place for Carl Gudgeon and Peter King as they put in a fantastic performance. And with that bonnet now firmly strapped down, it will be 5th place for Steve Smith and John Griffiths at the end of day 1. Richard Green and Richard Griffiths make a good push to move up to 6th place from 10th. And it's just 1 place gain for Mike Moran and Claire Wood, now up into 7th on the leaderboard. Phil Ibbotson and Will Jefferson also make good progress and end day 1 in 8th place. This despite problems with the car losing oil throughout the day. Kevin Groose and Tim Chadbourne join the top 10 now as they jump into 9th place. And rounding out the top 10 once again after briefly dropping down a few places are Ben Gott and Courtney Tipping. At the end of day 1 for the trophy rally, it will be Greg Morris and Bob Moulding that continue to lead the event. Tom and Richard Hipkiss still taking up that 2nd place spot they held from early on. And Vonnie Kempster remains in 3rd place at the end of a tough day's competition. So as we head into day 2 and get the first few runs out of the way, it's still Dan Lofthouse and Johnny Kunja that lead, and clearly pushing very hard. Also pushing hard to keep the JE Developments defender in 2nd place were Ryan and Chris Cook, looking promising for a good result here today. And a strong start to day 2 for Martin Cox and Paul Carson as well, closing in on Cook as best they could, but still 3rd place for now. No change for Carl Gudgeon and Peter King as they remain in that 4th place. And Steve Smith and John Griffiths keep up their pace into day 2 and hold onto their 5th position. And it's a move up 1 place now for Mike Moran and Claire Wood, this course obviously suiting the man famous for that smile. Damage limitation now for Ian Rochelle and Chris Hammond as they start to climb back up from their problems yesterday to lie in 7th place. This climb up the results crucial, of course, for that championship fight. And a move up for Ben Gott and Courtney Tipping as they go into the final leg in 8th place. Problems at the end of day 1, remember, for Gordon Monaghan and Steve Matthews dropped them down the results, but they hadn't given up. Back up as far as 9th place now. And Richard Green and Richard Griffiths would lose a couple of places now, dropping down to round off the top 10 at this stage. So moving into the final leg of the event now, and it would still be Keith Wilde and Andrew Jenner who lie 3rd in the clubman category. No change either for Graham Sturrock and David Holbrook as they take 2nd place. But it's a runaway victory for Dan and Kim Evans in the Milner as they post times that would have seen them fighting for a win in the overall results. A trio of Freelanders finish this event, so it's still Chris Ratter and Eddie Fernside that round off those 3 finishers. Dave Reeve and Philip Gillespie maintain 2nd place at the end of what has been a tough event, while Harry Sherrard and Ivor Heading prove their dominance and take the Freelander win here at round 6. A day 2 return to the top 3 pays off for Paul Myers and Matt Morgan as they take the final step of the Trophy Rally podium. With Tom and Richard Hipkiss putting in their best efforts, but having to settle for 2nd place now. So it's another win for Greg Morris and Bob Moulding in the bowler. A slow start to the weekend, but one that turned out well in the end. Onto the overall leaderboard now, and rounding off the top 10 was still Richard Green and Richard Griffiths. It's a 9th place finish for Phil Ibbotson and Will Jefferson, despite dropping down into 12th at the start of the day in that Metro 6R4. Ben Gott and Courtney Tipping finish in 8th place, the same position they had held all the way through day 2. 1 place lost on the final leg for Mike Moran and Claire Wood sees the pair finish in 7th place. Still a great result at the end of a difficult weekend's racing. And it would be a disappointing end to Gordon Monaghan and Steve Matthews' event as they take 6th place, having led for most of day 1. A frustrating end too for Ian Rochelle and Chris Hammond, problems putting them too far back to claim another victory. They finished 5th. A good result for Steve Smith and John Griffiths as they take 4th place on a weekend where it seems not many had a clean run. And a podium place is a great result for Carl Gudgeon and Peter King. The faultless drive all weekend providing them with a well-deserved result.
So brilliant result for you this weekend.
Excellent. I've never done as well on the British, so I'm really pleased. It's been a really good event but very hard on the cars, so can't say any more than that really. It's really good.
And it would be 2nd place for Ryan and Chris Cook as they are unable to catch the leader. A fantastic end too for a weekend of mechanical problems for the crew.
Well done on coming 2nd. How have you found the day today?
It's been really hard again, racing against some talented people. Everyone's had their problems today and it has been a bit of a rally of attrition. Fingers crossed it come good for us, so we worked really hard. Feel sorry for Martin, in fairness, because it went to the wire and unfortunately mechanical gremlins got the better of him on this one, but it was a fair fight and we went to the end. So I've had a fantastic day, I've had a fantastic season, and I'm just pleased for everyone that's helped me to get to where I am today.
Also riddled with dramas and problems, Dan Lofthouse and Johnny Kunja have to make last-minute repairs to get the car out on the final run. That brought tension to the service area, but it all paid off in the end with a win, and of course that 2011 championship title.
brilliant season for you this year with a new car. You've won the event and also the championship as well.
Yeah, it's looking that way. We've had a cracking year. We can't complain that way. New car. If we'd have said this at the beginning of the year, you're going to end up with a number 1 on your side for next year, we'd have been rolling around the floor giggling. But we've done it, and we've got the championship in the bag and the event for today. So all smiles in the Lofthouse camp today.
So what's the plan for next year?
We've got some more power coming. We've got the cars going back down to a frame and a few little tweaks. But it's all exciting. There's still a hell of a lot to have out of the car yet. So it's all. We'll see how next year goes, and hopefully a lot more speed and get rid of the little niggly breakages we've been having.
So here's a reminder of the top 10 at the end of this difficult event. Be sure to join us on the 21st of December for our end of season show, where we will be taking a look at the final championship results and class results from this season. Thank you for watching Special Stage.